everybody. Welcome to our first Devstream. I am Isom, Community Manager for Dungeon Defenders, and I am here with Brad Logston, Senior Producer.
Hey everybody, how are you doing today?
Cool. And I'm doing just fine, Brad.
That's good, Josh.
So we're gonna go ahead and play some games. If you want to join us, I can put my Steam name in the chat. I probably have a few people pinging me on Steam right now, wanting to play. That usually happens whenever I jump online.
Everyone wants to play with you, Josh. They all like playing with you. You're the best.
They only think that until they actually play with me, and then they're like, gotta get out. So we're gonna jump into the 10 to 15 range. So first of all, Brad, thanks for taking the time to join us on the Devstream and talk to the community.
Oh, of course. It's my pleasure. I always love these opportunities to talk to everyone and answer questions. It's actually very informative. We learn quite a bit from that direct one-on-one interaction.
So someone said that the mic volume is low on one of you guys. Let me look at my settings real quick. See
if it's me, I think I can turn myself up some. Let me see.
There, I just boosted myself, and I think Brad is boosting himself as well.
No, it looks like I'm all the way up.
Cool. So, Brad, since you're here, why don't you talk about, the first week of the game being on Steam Early Access and how we've been reacting there?
Yeah, certainly. So it's been a very exciting first week. It's been great to see so many people jumping into the game. We were number one on Steam during most of our sale, so that was exciting. And the best part has just been seeing the reviews and the feedback coming in. We're very honored and humbled by just how positive the response has been for most of the fans out there. And we've been working on this game for a little over a year now, and you always, we take it to shows, and we have our defense council that we've been having play the game for a while, and we get feedback from them. But it's very different when you first get out the door and finally get people playing it. And, we're happy that you guys are, for the most part, pleased with where we're at right now in the development cycle. And equally as important to us, it's been really exciting to see all the different notes and feedback coming in. We're in early access so we can improve the game and make it a better game than we have now, figure out the most effective ways to spend our time. And, a lot of the different threads that have been going back and forth from, conversations about how much green mana we have in the game to wanting controller support to talking about some balance and some aspects of how the different heroes play and their abilities and towers. We've been reading, and to be honest, Josh has been correlating all that feedback and sending it over to us. And it's just been great to read it and use that to drive not just decisions for what we try to do fast, but for things that we're doing in the long run. So, it's been a super exciting week. It's also been great to see the influence system go up for the first time. I know a lot of you guys have been participating in that, and that's been really interesting to see the landslide victory, at least as far as the first vote's concerned. So, all really cool stuff.
So, when can we see the next influence vote?
I actually, as soon as this call is over, I'll be finishing up the text for that. It should be going up this afternoon. I think the current vote ends in like a couple hours, actually. And then shortly after that vote completing, we'll have the next one going up right afterwards.
Can you give us a little sneak peek about what the next vote might be?
Ooh, yeah, I could actually. So I'm not going to give too many details because I actually need to massage the language some. But we're going to be talking to you guys about challenge missions. One thing that we've been hearing a lot from people is that they want a little more diversity in the in-game content, and we've been trying to figure out unique ways that we can do that with some of the things that we have available, some of the tools and the pieces that we can move around right now. And actually, the design team is hard at work today, prototyping out and working through some of what we could call our first challenge missions, and we're going to bring to you guys a question about what types of challenges do you think would be more interesting, and we'll get some feedback from you on that here in the next week.
Cool. So I've seen some questions on our forums about our current influence vote, which is about choosing the mission or having it randomly re-roll.
Yeah.
So is there a timeline on when players could see that be put into the game? Is it going to be placed onto the roadmap for the future? How's that going?
Yeah. So our target, and I can't promise anything because with game development, you never really know how things are going to go. You start working on something and it always can blow up, and we don't want to give you guys something that's half complete. but our target right now is to include that in a January patch. If we get that or not, we'll see, but that's our target. And, we got the results from the vote. I'm pretty sure it's not going to flip in the next couple hours, so we kind of know what we're doing now. And we have an engineer ready to go, and we'll hopefully be having that come out very soon.
Fantastic. So we've got some questions here in the chat that we'll get to, and then we'll kind of get back to some of the things that we're looking at for the future.
By the way, what map are you playing right now, Josh?
Right now I'm playing on Bizarre. This is 10 to 15 on normal.
Oh, excellent. Cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to... I was going to try to level up my apprentice. I totally forgot to switch. Trying to get my defense apprentice up. So someone asked, when will the level cap increase?
That's a good question. I think I would be curious to see when you guys would like it to be increased. We've been kind of focusing on trying to add depth into the in-game content, what we do at 25. Right now we have the 25 plus balance of the game, but we honestly don't like it very much. So we're actually in the process of tweaking that and updating it. We're looking at trying to add challenge missions in. We're looking to try to add more loot options in to in-game content to kind of make it a little more dynamic. So there's cool things to do when you get there. We don't really have any current plans on increasing the level cap. We don't have a time to do that. But I think that as we talk with you guys and figure out when you feel like there is enough new stuff in to change that, we can. It's really we kind of thought 25 was a good starting place for us, and we'll probably sit there for a little while.
So we have some questions about the PS4 version.
Oh, right. Yes.
So the first.
I wonder if anyone in the live stream was at PSX and got a chance to play it, actually.
Oh, speaking of which, how was that experience before we move on to some of these questions?
Oh, PSX was great. I mean, Sony were very gracious hosts. They put on an awesome show. A lot of the people that we talked to were actually having a lot of fun at PSX specifically. You go to some of these big shows like PAX, and it's really difficult to try a whole bunch of games because the lines are super long. They kind of did a good job of controlling how many people let into PSX. So a lot of people that we were talking to actually had time to sit down with games and try them out. And we had a lot of people come by and check out, which in my opinion was not even a vertical slice, a very early version of the build on PS4 with temp controls and very little UI work done. But everyone seemed to love it. They're really excited about controller support. I know we heard about that from you guys a lot, and I can tell you, I mean, with the PS4 SKU running, we're working on controller support right now. We're hoping to have that in the PC build really soon. But yeah, PlayStation experience was great.
Sorry, I was having some microphone issues. I believe I'm talking at a normal volume now. Just let me know in the chat if that still needs to be tweaked. So going to the PS4 questions, someone asked, when will we see the PS4 version of DD2?
We will see the PS4 version of DD2 when it's done. I know that's kind of a tough question, a cop-out answer to say, but we want to make sure that we make that experience as good as we can on that platform. There are some UI work that we've done on the PC version that really is not intuitive for PS4, and we want to have that best experience that we can. We also are committed to doing local co-op. We think that the PS4 build really deserves to have that awesome living room experience, and of course we're going to bring that over to the PC build as we get that in. We also want to make sure that the moment-to-moment gameplay with the controller and how all that stuff feels is just rock solid. So we're shooting for 2015. It'll be sometime this next year, almost this year. 2015 is like, 15 days away. But we don't have a definitive date quite yet.
Sorry, for some reason my microphone levels are just, they're automatically changing back down to the lowest. I'm watching the levels go right on down.
It's conspiring against you, Josh.
It's very strange. Let me just do a microphone boost and see if that works. That's where this computer does hate me. Alright, so someone asked, is there any price that you can say about the PS4 version?
Pricing is unique. We're going to be going free-to-play on PS4, just like we're going to be going free-to-play eventually on PC. So the pricing scheme is going to be a free-to-play game.
Perfect.
And just to clarify for anyone that's not familiar with our philosophy on free-to-play, I see this a lot in the forums, people being curious about, are we going to be pay to win? Are we going to do things like, have or consumables that you can do that would change your drop chance? And I can tell you without any hesitation that we don't really believe in pay to win mechanics. We don't believe in game advantage that you spend money on. Our plan for free to play, we use the term ethical monetization. We want to do things that don't directly affect moment to moment gameplay or character growth. So cosmetics or inventory expansion or other ways to enhance the visual aspects of your towers or your tavern or your character. Those are the things that we're aiming towards. And you should be able to feel comfortable that when you get into Dungeon Defenders 2 as a free-to-play experience, the power and the loot and the things you earn, those are going to be protected and outside of any kind of money spend.
So I believe I'm saying his name right. Dan Poen wants to know, when are new characters and bosses going to be added in?
Yeah, I want to know that too. We've been working on Josh has played it. We've had a boss prototype that we put together, for our first boss, and to be honest, we're not quite happy with it yet, and it's just a prototype. And for us, we really want to push, just like we've done with everything in Dungeon Defenders 2 so far. We're really trying to find new ways to make our boss encounters interesting. I personally believe the boss is still pretty far ways out. As far as new characters, our new heroes, I should say, we haven't really spent much time working on the new heroes. We have done one we call hero revamp on the apprentice to kind of go back through his kit and make it better. And in the next 6 months to a year, hopefully sooner than that, we're going to be going through and revamping all the other ones. And as we go through those learnings, use those changes to figure out cool ways to build our next heroes. We do have ideas for them. I actually think we have some rough designs and a couple prototype experiments we've done for future heroes, but we're really focusing all of our energy on making the current 4 heroes as good as we possibly can and making sure that every ability in tower has a good amount of depth and legs to them.
He Who Is Mighty wants to know, will the game have cutscenes?
Will the game have cutscenes? We are not sure yet. We have talked about doing some cool cinematic work, maybe for an intro or for the boss fights. It's not something that we've really spent any time prototyping or working on quite yet, because frankly, we've been spending all of our effort trying to make the game as good as it can be, and spending all of our animation time making the animations cool for the towers and the abilities and the heroes and the enemies. It's possible that as we go down the road, we might find that to be a really cool storytelling mechanic. But right now we don't have any plans for that in the near immediate future.
My chat keeps jumping down whenever I scroll it up, so I apologize. Someone with Aron's Blade, where are you? Yeah, he asked, are any more Squire tower buffs incoming?
Squire tower buffs. I can tell you that the entire balance of all the heroes are probably going to be shifting around quite a bit in early access as we look at metrics, see what data is telling us which towers and abilities are most useful and which ones aren't, and then having conversations with you guys and streams like this to kind of answer back to you which towers and abilities do you think on the Squire need the most buffing or need the most changing. I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are.
So I think this is a good segue to talk about our revamps that are upcoming. Can you talk a little bit more about what those will entail on our roadmap?
Sure. They're a ways out because there's still a number of things that we have in our next 3 to 4 month cycle that we're going to be working on. But the spirit of the hero revamps is really to look at, we've been building Dungeon Defenders 2 for a little over a year. And during that time, we've learned a lot about how our game works. When we first started and we were first building these towers and abilities, we were kind of building them with the assumption of, gameplay is going to kind of play like this, and we think these are going to be interesting strategy choices with each of these characters. As we've been playing with all of them and building more content, building new maps, we're starting to find places where we think, some of the towers, some of the abilities don't really have as much strength to them as they could. So, the apprentice that you guys are playing now is significantly different than the way he was 4 or 5 months ago. We kind of looked at him and rebalanced his kit, changed a number of his abilities. We changed one of his towers pretty dramatically. I think the mana barrier is the one that we changed most substantially, but all of them kind of went through a pass. And we feel like he's probably one of the most well-rounded characters right now. As we go through the other ones, we still think the other ones are a lot of fun to play. To be honest, Squire is still one of my favorites. I love playing Squire. But each of them have parts of their kit that we think we can improve. So we're going to go, we look at them holistically, we kind of reevaluate them based on what their purpose was before, and then we make decisions on how we can either tweak or potentially even rip out and redesign a tower or an ability here or there for each kit.
Tyler151 wants to ask, when will character customization be going in, if any?
Yeah, so I don't know, you probably aren't very familiar with this Tyler, or Tyler151, I think you said his name was. We're working on an entire cosmetic system where players can customize the visual looks of their characters, and then in that cosmetic system there's also ways where as you play with a particular cosmetic set, there's opportunities for that play time to allow you to unlock different customization options for that cosmetic set. So we are working on that right now. I don't have a definitive date, but it's going to be sooner rather than later, I think. We're shooting for that in the next, hopefully, 4 to 6 months. And it's really exciting stuff. I mean, I've seen, if you go into the tavern, actually, I don't know, Josh, if you're there next, you can show them. There is kind of a placeholder area where the costume shop is going to go. And you can see an example that our artists have put up for a huntress costume and a monk costume, ones that we're kind of working on as first drafts. I think the Huntress has what we call like the Red Riding Hood costume, and the Monk has kind of a ninja costume. And they're super, super cool. The artists have done a great job with them so far. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Someone asked, are PS4 users going to be able to play with PC users?
I've asked that question a lot. We're not sure yet. We're still figuring out what the technology hurdles would be to get that to work. Obviously, there is the possibility, and it's our desire to make that happen, but there's still quite a bit of technical questions we have to answer on whether we can commit to it or not. But that door is not closed. We have the same desire that you guys have, where players can play together, and at the end of the day, that just makes a bigger audience, more friends for you to play with. We'll see where we end up when the PS4 build goes gets a little bit further on.
Speaking of PS4, some people on our forums have been asking, when are we going to see controller support into the game? Do we have any kind of ETA on that? Or?
We don't have an ETA, but that's another one of those sooner rather than later things. One of the first questions or the first design challenges we have to work out on PS4 is controls and UI. And controls kind of come first. So we've already taken kind of a first shot prototype at it, and to be frank, it went okay. We didn't like all of the ways that our first controller ideas came together. I believe there was actually a meeting just this last week on Monday or Tuesday, sitting down with what we learned from PSX and observing people playing the game with a controller and trying to figure out how we can improve that controller experience. So it's not like next week, but I really do hope it's going to be sooner rather than later, because we've heard a lot of calls on the forums and different connection points that people are anxious to get controller for PC. And once we get it in for PS4, it'll be a very simple port over to the PC build.
So all of those changes will be making its way to PC, Mac, and Linux?
Yes. They'll all be ported over.
Oh, that's fantastic. So another question is, will trading and or dropping items gold, will that be implemented?
We get asked that question a lot too. I think that we're trying to find the best way to do that in our game. We're a little bit careful about trade. I think that there's a lot of great benefits for people to be able to exchange items and find ways to find other players that have loot that they've acquired that would be good for them. But at the same time, we've had a lot of lessons learned in watching games like Diablo 3 and them doing their auction house and what they learned from that, and trying to be careful that we don't damage the loot progression curve of the game by making trade in a bad way. So it's something that we are definitely looking at down the road and how we can do that the best. I love ideas from the community on that. There's obviously, we read the forums and we're paying attention. So if you have some awesome ideas on how to make that work the best, to be honest, it'd be really helpful to see where your guys' thoughts are. I imagine that when we get closer to it, there'll probably be an influence vote about trade and a lot of conversations with you guys, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you guys have the best experience you can with any system that allows you to move items back and forth.
Someone asked, can you tell us what Gambits are on the bottom of the hero stats menu?
Yeah, Gambits. There are some spec nodes that have, I believe, positive and negative effects. Off the top of my head, I can't remember which ones they are, or I don't remember if we actually implemented any Gambits in the first pass. But the Gambit is, you think of it as almost like a negative stat. You take something negative to get a more positive benefit. It's like making yourself a glass cannon. You reduce your defense to make your offense more powerful. Again, you can't quote me on this. I can't remember off the top of my head if any of the Gambit spec nodes made it in on our first spec node pass, the initial 6 that we added for each hero. But that's the idea behind them.
Yeah, I don't believe any of those made it into the first pass.
I don't think so either. And I believe
before we went to Steam Early Access, but I think we didn't change them for other specs.
Yeah, we had a couple spec nodes that we had issues with, some balance problems, and they weren't very good. So we ended up culling it down to just the 6 that we have right now. And I don't believe we updated the UI to remove the Gambit language, even though I don't believe any of the Gambits are in. But that's the idea. It's kind of a risky spec. You take one where it's like the Squire, takes more damage from enemies, but his abilities do, cool things, whatever it might be.
I see some questions that I might be able to answer. Diaz943 from our events team from DD1 asked, will there be events in DD2? That's still kind of to be determined when we're talking about the events that the community ran, and they were completely run by the community and organized by the community. We're certainly open to that for DD2. In terms of any concrete plans right now, not at the moment, but we are in talks with the community team to see what we can do there. I think there might be some ideas that I might not be able to talk about right now in terms of stuff from the design team themselves. I think Brad.
Look at Josh softballing it over to me.
Do you want to take that one, Brad?
I'll just say this much. There are some really cool features that we're going to be adding down the road for events. We think you're going to really like them. They're going to come a ways down the road, so I don't feel comfortable going into details today. But that's one of the exciting things about early access. You guys are watching this game grow and evolve and change, and there's going to be a lot of exciting features added as we go through this, this year-long process in Steam. So yes, events are going to be something you're going to see, and not just the community-driven ones that Josh is talking about, but a new way to approach how players can interact in an event system.
Someone asked, will there be map rewards similar to the first game? So I believe what they're asking is unique rewards for beating unique maps.
The answer is yes, and we're working on some of that stuff right now. I don't know. I know that we're trying to get some of those things in a patch very soon, at least the first parts of that. We really didn't have time before the very first early access build came out to really experiment with map-specific rewards. To be honest, you guys might not be familiar with this, but there was a pretty significant change to our loot system right before early access went live, where we introduced armor. And I know the council is very familiar with that because they're the ones that influenced us making that change. So now that change is in, we're starting to go back into our loot system and adding a little more options and depth into things like map-specific rewards. So you will be seeing those hopefully very soon.
Bugbite250 asked, will there ever be local co-op split screen?
Yes, there will. You probably missed me talking a little bit earlier. We're working on a PS4 build. We announced that at PSX last weekend, and we're going to be actually, I think we announced it at the Game Awards, to be more specific, and then we were at the PSX event in Vegas last weekend. And we are going to be working on local co-op split screen for the PS4 version of Dungeon Defenders 2, and then bringing that tech and those UI updates and screen updates and bringing them over to the PC version of the game. So it is definitely coming down the road that you'll be able to play locally with your friends on a couch with 2 controllers or controller and keyboard or whatever have you.
Awesome. I think we just jumped into the same map, but this time on hard. So we had some issues last time with kobolds running past us. I need some blockades.
Did you win?
Oh yeah, we won. It was wasn't really an issue, except we had kobolds last time to run through, so on hard, those might be an issue this time.
Yeah, whenever I play, the kobolds always surprise me. They run at you out of no, especially the speedy kobolds with the roller skates. Those guys just come out of nowhere.
Oh yeah, they're always tucked away in their little group, and they jump out at you.
Yeah.
And speed right past you. So for those who don't know, you just talked about speedy kobold. Can you talk a little bit about the variant and tier system we have for enemies?
Yeah, so we added a little bit more uniqueness and depth into the enemies in Dungeon Defenders 2 compared to the first game. So most of our enemies have multiple tiers to them. You'll have a tier 1 enemy that looks very different than, say, a tier 3 enemy. So like the original orcs don't have any armor on them. They have a certain visual profile. They may hit a little bit weaker. And you have the tier 3 orcs, which are just incredibly armored. They hit like a truck. They're really intimidating when you see them come out. And for some of the different classes, the tiers actually impact gameplay. So in the example of the kobolds, we have the normal kobold, what you've seen before, and it's just the one guy with the bomb or the TNT on his back, and he lights and explodes. There's a tier 2 kobold, which is a speedy kobold. It runs significantly faster than all the rest of them, and it's usually the ones that gets me killed because they are on roller skates and they can go very, very quick. And then you have the tier 3 kobolds, which are just enormous. They're these giant guys with huge, I think there's like 3 things of TNT on their back, and if they can get to a defense, they do a pretty substantial amount of damage. So there's really cool different tiers for all the enemies in the game. The wyverns have different tiers. Even the ogre, I believe, has different tiers that changes the way he looks visually and how powerful he is.
So let's see, we've got a few more questions for you, Brad. Someone asked, will there be pets in the game, and how will they affect gameplay in this compared to DD1?
Yeah, so we are working on pets right now. We're not really ready to talk about any of the details of them yet. I can say that they're going to be familiar to the DD1 pets, but they're going to have their own unique spin on them, probably similar to what you've seen with most of the features we've done in DD1 or DD2 compared to DD1. But you'll be getting more information about pets in the very near future.
Someone asked, will Dungeon Defenders 2 be free to play? Yes, it will eventually be free to play. We're in Steam Early Access right now, and we're using Steam Early Access to make sure that all of our features in the game are fantastic. We're gathering up all the feedback right now, and we're going to make changes to things that people have issues with, trying to make the best game possible here. We really enjoy the idea of building a game with a community. This isn't just, a bug testing or a beta testing phase. This is very much, we're in development and we're working with our player base to make, changes to the game, add things to the game. You're right there with us in the development process, and, that's what early access is all about.
Yeah, I would encourage you, if you haven't watched it, we're trying to do this regular update show on Influence, which is one of the systems that we've built, one of the features we built to help you guys participate in the development of DD2. And that's exactly right. We have a QA team, we have groups of people that are testing the game and looking for bugs. When you guys find them, send them our way. That's great. But to be honest, most of the time those bugs are already in our bug database, and we're just working through them as we work through, going through this pre-alpha and into alpha and beta. The big purpose for us for early access is really to get you guys to, 1, play what we think is a really fun game. We think DD2 is pretty solid so far in what we've built. But 2, help us blaze the best trail forward and help influence how we build this game, both in your general feedback that you give us in different places like forums and these live streams, and through our influence system, which we run through our website, where players generate influence points by logging into the game or logging into the website every day, and then using those to vote on decisions that we put out to the player base. So we really believe in this attitude, this spirit of building the game with you guys, so much so that we're building features to help facilitate that happening better. And we think that early access is going to be an awesome adventure for all of the people that get involved, to watch this game grow and turn into an even better product than we have right now.
Do you have time for a few more questions?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so someone wants to know, will there ever be forced wipes during the pre-alpha?
So forced wipes is kind of we have no plans right now to do any player wipes. I expect that we'll probably stumble upon at least one as we're making some pretty big changes to the game. We have done some work on our side to make it so that we can wipe specific things. So, for example, we can wipe specific items, or we can wipe sections of items, or we can wipe just heroes, or we can wipe, I think, item stats and re-roll them. There's a number of things that we've tried to separate out so that if we do something like dramatically change the way the game is balanced or introduce a new way that heroes level up, we don't have to destroy all the equity that you guys have gained. But it is early access, and there are, based on your feedback and the things that we discover, a lot of things that we may learn that would influence us and cause us to maybe have to reset some of the things that you've done. So we're hoping that we can limit that and have it happen as little as possible. But it can certainly happen during the early access period of time.
So someone asked a two-part question for you. The first part is, when
All
will
right.
we get new maps? And the second is, will there be any paid DLC in DD2?
So new maps are going to be coming down the road. I think you're going to be talking to Chris James after me. He's our lead level designer, and there is quite a few new pieces of content that are in the pipe. We're still debating on the launch timeline because we want to give them enough time to be polished and balanced before we get them out to you. As far as paid DLC, the answer is most certainly no. We have the one price point that the price point we're offering for early access and the opportunity to get the collector's edition. Those give you all content that we're releasing for free down the road, plus a lot of cool perks and benefits and some currency. And when it goes to free to play, the only thing that you're going to ever have to pay for are things that you want to pay for when it comes to buying a costume or, expanding maybe a premium inventory box or, buying a tower skin or something like that. So all the maps, all the heroes right now are all planned to be free with no paid DLC.
Tag 4240 wants to know, will there be an acknowledgement of players' achievement status in DD1 in the DD2 Tavern?
That I'm not sure of. There's some technical challenges there in trying to grab information from DD1 and reference it in DD2. I won't tell you that it's impossible, but it's not something that we're actively looking at right now. I think that if that's something that people really, really wanted, we could explore it more in detail, but it's definitely going to be a little bit of a technical challenge to grab that data. The information systems that DD1 was built on, the way that we stored data is very, very different and segregated from how we do things in Dungeon Defenders 2, and they're not really designed to talk to each other. So, we have to be really careful about anything that we try to do to have them go back and forth.
Official Push TV asked, when do we receive our pre-order skins and stuff and our collector's edition stuff? Since they still need to be implemented, when are they going to be done?
Yeah, we're working on that right now. There was a question earlier about our cosmetic systems. They're in our production process. They're going through our pipelines. It's going to be a couple months, maybe a little bit more than that, as we kind of get these features up and running. We have UIs to build. We have both the cosmetics that you guys have and then a couple others that other people can enjoy that we're putting together. But they are actively in development. I know the art team and the features team and the design team are all they're all on their plate here in the next coming milestones. So hopefully very soon.
Epic Sky Me wants to know, will DD2 have workshop support to add new items, game modes, and maps?
So that is something we've talked about quite a bit. It's not on our current roadmap because during early access, there's a lot of pieces that are still moving around with even how we would give you guys parameters on how to build content. But that is a door that is open. We're talking about that. We've had meetings about it before and how we can best facilitate content creators, both in supporting you guys to make content that you want to make on your own, and then maybe even adding some features or systems or processes through Workshop or even through some other ways to allow you to get content in the game. So stay tuned for that down the road. It's something that's going to come down as we get a little bit closer to coming out of early access.
Sorry, I'm messing around with this wyvern here. I just taunted him down to my level, and then he's just like, nope, I'm ignoring you. Let's see. Someone asked, will we get Christmas and Halloween events once it's released?
Christmas and Halloween events once it's released? We will probably do a whole bunch of cool stuff during the holidays as we get a little bit further on in the project. So stay tuned for that. We've already talked about it some. Everyone likes Santa Claus hats and Halloween costume stuff, so for sure.
Yeah. I guess maybe 2 more questions for you, and then we'll bring in Chris James, our lead level designer. Thanks so much for taking the time to answer these questions.
Oh yeah, of course, I love it. This is great.
Let's see. Someone asked, do you guys have a hopeful date for when you want to fully release the game?
We know that we're going to be in early access for a while because the feature set that we believe is needed to really feel comfortable going out of early access is still quite long, but we don't have a set date, and a lot of that is because we really take the philosophy of when the game is done is the wrong word for a free-to-play game, but when the game is at the best state, that's when we're going to be ready to come out of early access and go live. So, we're going to navigate this together. We're going to talk to you guys about how you feel the game is coming along, and then when all of us collectively are proud of what we got, then we'll go to the next step.
All right, and then I guess the final question for you.
All right.
Let me make sure that we have the best question possible here for you.
By best, do you mean hardest?
Exactly.
Josh never pulls any punches.
All right. So someone wants to know about downleveling. Do we have any plans to change downleveling in the future?
So downleveling actually does have some future plans. I honestly don't know when we're going to get these in. We kind of put downleveling in a little bit quick because we wanted to have a way for players to play with their friends that they had got into the game early on without having to jump through a whole bunch of hoops, like trying to sync up character level and whatnot. One thing that we've talked about that I think we probably will do down the road is make it so that in private matches, you can turn off downleveling and play with characters that are out of ranges for maps. That will allow you to kind of work with your friends, and maybe you can bring a low-level friend along with you while you play a harder content map. But we debate back and forth about letting that kind of stuff happen in public matches, because one thing we want to do is avoid someone griefing by coming into a match that they can't play or are way too low level or low too geared to play and just waste mana, waste DU, and be kind of a troll. So we're going to be making changes to downleveling down the road, but we're also going to be very careful to make it the most positive, cooperative experience we can for DD2.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time to answer some questions, Brad.
Yeah, thank you, Josh, for hosting. And all of you guys who are listening and playing, we love your feedback, and we're really glad that you're having a good time. Keep joining these live streams and keep talking to us, and we'll keep on trying to make the best game we can.
Fantastic. I think we're going to call in Chris James here in just a moment once we get out of this combat phase, because things are starting to get a little bit hectic here, and I don't want to be the reason why we lose. Yeah, let me pull the taunt here and get these guys down.
Oh, you're playing the Squire?
Yeah. I absolutely love the Squire. I'm trying to build him as a hero damage DPS dealer. It's going really well.
Squire has one of my... The Squire one has one of my favorite spec nodes. I really like the spec node that when you taunt or when enemies are attacking you, the towers do more damage to them. That can be really, really fun to play with.
Yeah, I think I have him spec'd right now with the repost, which is reflect damage back, and then I have some in shield strength right now, which decreases the amount of damage you take whenever you block an enemy's attack. That one seems to be doing really well so far. Hold on, we've got 13 more enemies, and then I'll be able to call in Chris. I think we should be good if I can just walk away. Mr. Monk right here's got the orc. He's gonna die soon.
Awesome.
They've got mid lane. All right, thank you so much, Brad, and we'll definitely talk to you next week.
All righty, thanks a lot, Josh. Take care, everybody.
All right, we're calling in Chris now. I feel like we're on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Let's see if he answers. Pick up your Skype. Hello, Chris.
Hello.
This is Regis Philbin, and you're on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Fantastic. I'm in.
You've already wasted 10 seconds, and now your spouse has lost.
Oh man.
It's so sad. All right. So why don't you introduce yourself to everybody on the stream?
Hey guys, my name's Christopher James, CJ on the forums. I'm new here. I'm the lead level designer. I just started in September, so I've been primarily focused on what we're going to be working on going forward, and really helping support the guys make the maps that you're currently playing even better. So that's, in a nutshell, what I've been up to.
So first, let's talk about the changes to current maps and how you're trying to make those better. Can you give us some details on that?
Yeah, sure. So, as an example, one thing that I'm looking at right now is all of the different environment traps and kind of like what they really add to the experience, and then how are players currently using them. Like, I'm watching a lot of YouTube videos and watching Twitch streams, and just kind of like reacting accordingly. So, as an example, in the Greystone Plaza, we've got these really cool rocket carts that you can kind of walk up to and press a whole bunch of times, and a whole bunch of rockets come out. But I was kind of noticing that some people were kind of using them just to play around with them, but never really using them during combat. And this kind of comes back to kind of a pillar about our environment traps of what they really should be doing, which we're calling enemy disabling, player enabling. So essentially, when you use one of our traps, it should enable you to do something else. So one thing that I've kind of gone in and do, instead of doing the whole like keep tapping, you can use it once. The 3 rockets will come out, so it's really cool to watch. But once the rockets are done, not only is it done damage, it's also stunning the enemies. So it's letting you kind of like watch the cool excitement or the cool spectacle, and then actually come in and do something about it. Instead of just kind of like watching it, they've kind of walked by, you're just focusing directly on the rocket cart, and that's kind of an example of things that we're looking at, and also like how other traps are going to work in other maps, but stuff like that. That's kind of what we're looking at.
So when can players expect to see that change?
Oh, right. I'm not exactly sure when we're going to be dropping the patch, which is going to include these kind of changes. I know Brad's talked about a lot of like what we're currently focused on, which is directly related to some of the great feedback we've been receiving from our community. The stuff that I've been kind of like looking at is really stuff that's more of like a long-term design philosophy about like how our game kind of really helps provide players with like much more concise usability, if that's a really actual term or not. But it's kind of like really just bringing in a lot of these kind of design decisions which we've created and had over the past year or 2 years or however long this project's been kind of going on, and really kind of trying to see what players are using, see what they're not using, and just reacting accordingly. We really do feel, obviously, that we're very passionate about our maps, we're really passionate about how people are loving them, but we want to make sure that not just that they look cool, but they also play really well.
Oh snap, I just got a blue chest. Oh yeah. These happen more often.
Yeah, actually, that's something that I actually helped on the maps. I was the one who went into all the different maps and placed the endgame chests, and also did the victory cinematics at the end. So the new curvy ones, which kind of show the 4 heroes in a stance. There's a lot of work done putting those things technically into play. The great work from our team. I just kind of went in and just placed them and just tried to figure out how all of that in-level stuff worked. And I'm really glad to hear the community. Yeah, so this victory cinematic. I'm really glad the community is loving them, and as we get more feedback, we'll try to make them and other things in our game much better.
Cool. So we have some community questions.
Sorry, it's a lot of rambling.
Oh, you're totally fine. Let's see. We have a question from Dan Poen. Will we get a big map? Sorry, the chat keeps dropping down. Will we get a big map with more than 5 rounds, and do we get special boss fight maps?
That's a very interesting question. Bigger maps, yes, that is in the pipeline. In terms of like doing more than 5 waves, one of the core parts about our experience is that, and how we tailor our balance is according to what wave 1 to 5 kind of brings to the table, like how the players kind of react and how the different waves kind of increase and all that jazz. So we don't really have any plans of bringing up like a 6th or 7th wave to make the experience longer, but we're doing I know the design team, the game to play design team is doing a lot of work right now to make that experience even better. So the second question of that part of that was?
Special boss fight maps, I believe, is the second part of that.
Special boss fight maps. So this is definitely something that we've been kind of looking at from DD to DD1 and DD8 experiences. We have a plan for it yet. I can't really talk much about it. Because I think we want to make this really special for our players. I think it's something that players really want, and it's something that we really want to deliver. We want to do it right, and we want to make it more than just, oh, by the way, here's just a boss, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think we really want to do something special around this. So that's kind of not so much up to me. That's up to our gameplay team, and as well as something that's kind of basically the point being is we really want to make sure that it's really a really fun experience for the players. So we're going to make that cook really well, and also make sure it's a fun event when we do actually receive it or give it.
Let's see, we've got a question here from where are you? Come on back. Twitch just ate my chat. So there's a popular piece of feedback on the forums talking about how some of the lanes feel a bit cramped. Can you talk about our philosophy about lane width and maybe lane structure going into our future new maps? Are there any changes in the works there?
The thing that's actually really important is being really intentful for what a lane does and how does it reflect kind of the opportunities that we provide the player according to the different rollouts that they're going to possibly receive in, because the rollouts for each of the lanes kind of change dynamically map per map or every time you load a map. What we're trying to be more concise of is like, when do we kind of bring in the collision to allow for like an intended choke point, or how do we create deco that actually kind of like implies where you can kind of build within the lane or outside of the lane. So I think if more than anything, because it's really hard to kind of go back to our previous maps and the stuff that we've learned and the stuff that we're watching players do and going forward with those, we can do changes if there's anything that's come up from the community. But definitely going forward with our next maps, we're being much more intentful about it, mostly because not just watching players, but we've learned a lot ourselves. When you build a map and you kind of try and figure out what your gameplay is, not everything is going to be absolutely perfect. We hope it's like going to be a lot of fun, but when we kind of look back at what we've created and kind of decide on the next steps going forward, we can go, wow, okay, well, this was something that we probably should have done better, so we're going to do this better. And one of those is, I think, going to be more intentful lane designs in terms of not only how they interact with each other, so when lanes get close, and how do turrets kind of react within, or what kind of placement and strategies you can have within those kind of opportunities, but also like when it curves in, or when we pinch it so you can only place towers within a lane, or all these kind of like things, right? That's special to dungeon defenders. We're just trying to be more interesting of, and also taking a look at the meta of like how players are placing turrets, how they're putting things together, and what's really fun. And we're not going to break it. We're going to try to help create interesting problems, which hopefully mutate and change the meta in a way that's that creates challenge. So, but we're trying to be as intentful with lane design and width and all that jazz, definitely going forward.
Fantastic. So we have some questions. I don't know how much you can answer these, but Psycho Justice,
sure.
I believe, asked, what maps can we expect in the future? Like, where will our players go, and why will they be going there? Is that something you can answer?
Well, fellow Eternians, we have 3 brand new tile sets that we're working on right now. One is already very far into the pipeline. We're just looking at actually the difficulty, the rollout, some of the collision things. So we're actually doing a huge polish / refinement on that kind of experience. But they're all completely separate, and they're all pretty big maps. And I'm actually really excited about it because it's I don't know how much I can say, but I guess I can kind of say that one is foresty, another one is spooky, and another one is, I guess a good word for this is windy. So I'll let our HR and I'll let our marketing guys kind of really create some really awesome experiences going forward to really get you guys super excited about it. We're excited about the maps. We're really excited about the maps. We've had a couple of play tests on them, and the entire team is just really into what we're kind of creating going forward. So we're excited. We hope you guys are going to be excited, but that's kind of really all I can say about what you should look forward to. As to when, again, we just want to make sure that we're making great maps for you guys. So we don't want to just create something and throw it out and not it be a great experience. So that's important to us.
So you actually mentioned something cool that I think it might be fun to talk about. You mentioned playtests and internal playtests. I don't think anybody in our community knows that we have, weekly playtests on new stuff, and that the company as a whole kind of gets together and talks about the stuff coming in. So, can you maybe talk about the process of a map when it starts out? Like, what does a map start out as, and how does it get to what it is that players play?
Okay, so the process here is actually really interesting and unique. So especially for Dungeon Defenders, not only just Dungeon Defender kind of maps, but also, as you can tell, our art style is fantastic. So how kind of maps start out is they start out from a direction which really kind of brings together the art style that we're looking for and the tile set that we're looking for and new gameplay opportunities. From there, what we'll do is we'll create a basic paper map, and to try to understand not just where direction wants us to go, but also what we feel is going to be really interesting lane gameplay and player traversable and the general layout. Once we kind of do that paper map, what we actually do is bring everybody in and go, hey, what do you guys think? Is this kind of along the lines of the shapes that we were looking for? Do we have any particular callouts for gameplay? And that could be like a 15-minute, 30-minute meeting. And once we kind of get that solid, what we'll do is go in and create a white box. Now, a white box isn't with gameplay. It's strictly just a 3D understanding of what that paper map means. So it's very blocky. We're working in Legos. It looks ugly, but the key thing that we're trying to nail down is metrics for areas, like how big or how small it is, what the lanes are going to look like, and then what is our verticality going to feel like. So being able to jump and height and bringing some lanes up, bringing some things down. And this is highly iterative. You can take a whole area, just completely destroy it, take one area, another area, reform it to a completely different idea. And this is a very organic process until we get something that feels really right. Once we kind of get that generally solid, we'll then move on to something called the gray blocks, or first playable. So that gray box is what we do is we take kind of the white box that we've created, and we've also shown the lead artists and the creative directors and get their kind of approval on it. We then go in and put in the first iteration of the rollouts. We put in the prototypes for our traps. We put in as much art assets as we can in order to really understand the atmospheric and the themes. So the skybox would go in, a general direction light, those kind of things. And we play test the hell out of that. So the first thing we'll do is we'll just do an internal playtest with the design team, just so that we can all kind of play it and give our direct feedback. Once the level is in a situation, or it's in a place that we feel really comfortable with it, we'll then send it out to the entire team, and we'll have that weekly or even bi-weekly playtest of that new map. And this is where everybody, doesn't matter if you're a QA guy or a lighting guy or a world artist or a programmer, everyone gets on the game and they play it for about an hour. So they'll probably have one or two different goes, different teams, so you can sometimes you're playing with the same people, sometimes you're not. And then we'll have a kind of an online forum for our internal team to just put down, what do you like about the map, what do you didn't like about the map, those kind of questions. From there, we kind of take all that feedback and we then iterate based off of those things. So up to this point, we're really kind of we are confident about the map, but there's still a lot of things we might not have considered, because there's a lot of variables, like all the different type of towers you can place and different strategies that you can break. So once we kind of iterate on all those, and we've locked our first playable, which is strictly actually designed at this point, we then kind of hand it off to our artists, or our world builders, who are doing they do fantastic work. It's kind of like mostly what you see in the end game right now. So what they'll do is they'll start going in and take that art direction that was done at the beginning, take a lot of the art that even the environment artists have been creating, and they'll create and form the mold of the world. So they'll create the lane geometry and the walls first, and then we start kind of plugging in all of the negative space, which are like the pillars and a couple the player traversability areas, and then we kind of then go in and do a decoration of that. And what we're really ensuring that while art is and the world builders are creating all of this content, the level designer is consistently looking at the maps and going, okay, what is this communicating? And is this now that we've kind of say maybe changed this area a bit because we don't want Lego blocks obviously with our art, how does that actually affect what our intent of this area? So does it change where players perceive they can put turrets, or does it change the jumping height, those kind of things? So we have a constant iteration back and forth kind of between the level design team and the art team and the world builders, and then we kind of get to a point where it gets we consider like content complete or alpha. So then we'll go and do another playtest of the map with the entire team to kind of see, okay, well, now with the design that was in there that they've seen before, and all of the art that's currently that's been placed in, does this still make sense? Is this still fun? Is the readability and the language still correct? So maybe people, like one of the key things, and that's very common in our game, is players get lost. So what we'll do is we'll then go into each of the lanes and go, okay, well, what's a clarity thing that we can do for this lane? Like one of them is just simply decoration. So as you can see, kind of like on Twitch right now, JavaHawk did this really awesome job of kind of going in and making sure that the readability of what is a player lane, or sorry, what an enemy lane is versus where the death pits are, is actually much more clear. So we'll kind of like do basic things like that, or we'll dress it up like, oh, these are all blue mushrooms versus these are red flowers, whatever it is to kind of really help that kind of people to not get just simply lost in the space. And then from there, we then ensure that it's bug free and that it's optimized, and then it kind of goes to that phase, which is getting release candidate that gets ready for release. I'm sorry if that's a really long explanation about how things work here, and I am generalizing a lot. There's a lot more work that goes into this, but from beginning to end, that's kind of how a map gets made here at Trendy.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a very detailed response. I really appreciate that. So I had a question for you. You were talking about the iterative process. What happens if a white box, if there's no way to iterate on it to make it something that you guys feel comfortable with moving forward? Is there a throw it out phase, or do you guys just iterate until it becomes something great?
There's kind of like two different answers to that. The first one is white boxes are meant to fail. They're meant to fail fast. So when I talk about a white box, we don't take 3 or 4 months to do a white box. We'll take a week to do our first white box. It's not going to be the best. There's going to be a lot of problems with it. But we want to get the ideas down that our direction has given us, and our paper map has kind of that we've designed with our paper map into the game as soon as possible. And as soon as we do that, we'll very quickly realize what doesn't work and what works. So we haven't really kind of gotten to a point where our white box was a complete failure, especially because the intent of a white box is, if this area is not working or this lane's not working, we scrap it and do it all over again. Because the white box should only take that like a couple of days to create. They're really quick, they're really simple, and then once we kind of get that feeling going forward, and then we'll move into the gray blocks. It's more about kind of that question is more focused on the gray box. So if we do the white box and we do feel like it's good, and we get the gameplay in and it doesn't feel it's good, then what do we do? The answer to that is, again, failing fast and also failing cheaply. So there haven't been, the only people who have been really touching the white box and the gray box has been a level designer. Maybe a little bit more like some assistance around that, but we're just wasting like one person's time versus going through an entire map process of getting all the art done and getting all the design done and then realizing it doesn't work, because then that's a much harder question of saying, nope, this doesn't work, and redo it from scratch. So it's kind of the answer is, like I was saying, is twofold. The one fold is we scrapped areas that don't work and iterate it going and do a complete new iteration. And if the map at all doesn't work, then yeah, we'll just kind of go back to the drawing board and do new paper map around it. I've only been here again since September, so I haven't seen any maps completely fail yet. And thankfully not. I think we have an incredibly strong team who knows what they're doing. From all the way from people who've worked on the first Dungeon Defenders to people who are new on the Dungeon Defenders 2 team. But everyone's really talented, they're really knowledgeable, they're really passionate about this game. So I think, and this is what I've been really impressed with, a lot of the designs that I've seen have been fantastic, even right on their paper map perspective. So I think that's why I'm really excited about the new maps that we're creating now and showing it to you guys, because I think they're going to be really, really cool. So in the future, maybe something fails. It probably will, but again, fail fast, fail early, and then we'll just kind of take it from there.
And I have one final question for you, and then we can let you get back to work, because I know you're a busy man.
It's pretty intense over here now. We're trying to do a lot for you guys. Our design team is really hard at work. I'm sure Brad mentioned this on a lot of the feedback that we've received, and yeah. So, yeah, I do have to get back to work at some point.
All right. So the final question from Psycho Justice is: will we get maps where the weather plays a big role, like huge snowstorms or thunderstorms or dark caves?
Very interesting. Actually, yes. I can't talk too much about it, but I will say, out of the 3 words that I said before, windy is one of them. And I will leave it at that. And I hope that makes you as excited about that word as I am.
Well, thank you so much, Chris, for coming on to the Devstream. I'm sure everybody here really appreciates you taking the time to talk with us.
No problem. It's my pleasure. And please keep putting up Twitch streams and YouTube videos. I'm watching them. Our team's watching them. We're so happy you guys are excited with the content. And, man, I really just can't wait to show you guys what's next.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. That is the end of our first Devstream. I hope you enjoyed it. Please follow us here on Twitch. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to see more of these in the future. And from all of us here at Trinity, we're really, really grateful for the feedback that we've received so far, and we're excited to, keep making Dungeon Defenders 2 with you. You're going to be there with us through the whole process, and we're using your feedback to make sure that it's going to be the best action tower defense game we could possibly make. So until next time, until next Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I am Isom, your wonderful, so humble community manager, and we'll see you next time.